Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jenn DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl and contributor Robyn Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
Thanks for joining the Women in Vinyl podcast. I'm Jenn.
I'm Robyn. That was Haley and the Crushers with Church of Flag.
Cut by our very own Robyn of Red Spade Records.
And today we are talking to the lovely and talented Amanda Schutzman.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
How are you?
Oh, it's so nice to see everyone in person. Well, not really in person, but a face.
Yeah.
And not just sending hearts back and forth.
True. Amanda is a sales rep for All Media Supply. She's a purchaser for Generation Records and for Needle and Groove, as well as being a co-organizer of the Vinyl Revolution record show. She does it all of it. She's done it all forever.
Yeah, just a smidge of everything. Whatever you ask me to do, I do. I think that's why I have so many jobs. I just say yes.
Yeah.
So tell us about those. How did you get into vinyl and into the industry?
My dad owned Slick Disc Records in New York and specialized in a lot of rare and import punk and metal that you just really couldn't find anywhere else. So people would come from all over. And we had insane in-stores before I was born, Metallica and Motorhead. And I missed everything. And I started working from a really young age and I just loved retail. I had no plans to continue working in records for the rest of my life. I'll tell you that.
It's funny how music always lends itself to child labor, isn't it?
Oh, my grandma used to put me in the window displays with a sign that says, buy a CD, feed me dinner. It always worked.
Buy a CD, get a
You'd
baby.
always get a walking stranger. Yeah, right. So I started working in Slip Disc and then wound up doing a million other things.
And you just said right before we got started that this is your dream job. So
yes.
Was this kind of like the end goal the entire time? Or did
Not at
it
all.
just kind of like evolve and that was the way that it...
It was a miracle. They just kind of offered me this job. They didn't really have a sales rep in this area. There's only 8 sales reps and they're handling 1,000 stores all over the U.S. So there was really no one in this area. So I took over, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Connecticut, all those stores. So I have over 100 stores now that I get to talk to once a week. And it's wonderful.
So for those people that don't know, what is All Media Supply or AMS? Like, what do you actually do?
We are a distributor. So we're a one-stop distributor. Instead of getting something direct from a label, we carry every label and you can just order all of your new releases and all of your restocks through us.
Nice. So
yeah, just basically a giant sales rep machine now. I'm just this giant sales machine. Any order that you are thinking of making, you can put through me. And the new Deftones, the new this, it doesn't matter what label it's on. We carry everything.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure that is sort of a dream job.
It's really nice. And now they just send stuff to my house. It's terrible.
And so just watching the tracking numbers. Oh, what's coming today?
Instead of getting things at wholesale prices as if it wasn't easy enough, now I just get things shipped to my house and it's taken out of my paycheck. And it's like, oh God, I don't have to shop anymore.
Do you even bring home a paycheck anymore?
Nope. It's gone.
That's why she's accumulating everything behind her. She's just going to make a fort eventually. And
now I know, 75 more stores than I knew before. So now I'm shopping at all those stores and I'll see what they post online and hold that for me. Yeah, I'm broke now. That never changed.
And how did you get into what you do for the record stores? Maybe you could sort of expand on that.
So when I was doing the record shows with my dad, I just got to know a whole bunch of record vendors and record stores in the area. And I just started shopping around New York. And eventually I would just help out stores with whatever they wanted, alphabetizing or Discogs. And then eventually Generation in Manhattan hired me. And they lost 2 great employees in the first couple months that I was there. So I just filled everyone's position and became buyer. And I started just buying all of their new releases and restocks. And I did T-shirts and I did posters and just all of the merch. until eventually Needle and Groove, I think in 2018, they wanted to open a store and they were like, oh, we aren't going to open unless you manage it. And that was enough pressure for me to just say, oh, sure, I'll do it. And it was really next door to my hometown. So nice and close.
Can you give us a description of like what the difference is between the distributor role and the buyer role?
Absolutely. So what's funny is that now, when I was buying for Generation, we went direct with everyone. So we went direct with Third Man. We went direct with Revelation. We went direct with a million different labels, and we would buy from everywhere because that's the way to get the lowest price. You still are paying a middleman, someone like All Media Supply, to get it all in one place. So our prices are going to be a little higher because we're also buying from the labels. So as a buyer, you're buying from a distributor.
Right.
So now I'm just buying for myself in a weird way because I'm still ordering for Generation and Needle and Groove. So I just kind of put in their orders and then get them delivered to the store, and I do it myself.
Do you find that having that like inside edge has helped you to be more effective in the distributor role as well as in the buying role?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Only because I've had sales reps that I don't like
Right.
and things like that. I know what I don't want in a sales rep.
Yep.
And I care a lot about the little stores. A lot of the bigger distributors care about whoever's giving them the most money, Newberry Comics, whatever. But I care about those tiny little stores. I just want you to have your new releases on time and have your special orders for your customers. And I always cared about my customers. So
Do you work with them to try to curate what they sell too in that way?
absolutely. Without a doubt. Though that's why I try to push people to talk to me on the phone more. People in 2021 just don't want to talk on the phone. I mean, it's just very awkward. And after years of texting, you just don't want to answer the phone for anyone, really. But the more I talk to you on the phone, the better I get to know what you're selling and what your customers want and what pre-orders you're going to jump on in terms of maybe you're going to pass on 15 things. I don't have to send you those emails. I'm going to send you all the new punk stuff. I'm going to send you all the new metal stuff. If I know you're a big indie store, I'll send you all the indie exclusives, things like that. So, yeah, definitely.
Has your history working at a record store kind of like been able to guide the way that you get the vibe of like a new store? Like when you're, like you said, you just got like 75 new stores. Like, are you like, oh yeah, you're here. You're a total this. Oh, I know you. You're a total that.
Yep. Within the first few phone calls, I can tell what they're going to order, what they like, what they're going to get excited about. We're all kind of, I don't know how to say it, but you know exactly what record collector you're talking to when you're talking to a record collector. You know what they want.
It's true. I mean, we can almost spot each other now. I mean, and anybody that follows you on social media, like, I mean, you say you care about your customers. I mean, you just care in general, and you care so much about your records that comes across in literally everything that you do. So, I mean, that's not a surprise at all. And you have one of the most epic T-shirt collections I've ever seen.
Yes. I honestly thought about that. I was like, should I set up in front of my records or should I set up in front of my T-shirts? Because they're equally cool.
It's true. They are. I mean, and anybody can go and check out your Instagram, which is We Are Smelly. Obviously, we'll tag you and everything and check out all of the assets because, I mean, yeah, it's a good time.
And the quest to catalog everything on Discogs.
I'm there. I've made it. And I almost feel like a failure because there's too many things. It reminds you how many things you're missing. Yeah. So I realized it was a mistake. It was a terrible mistake.
You see where the gaps are and you're like, oh no.
I don't own that. I don't own that.
What? How? Here's a question. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, having worked in so many different areas of the industry, what is something that you think is like maybe mysterious or misunderstood from consumer to sort of behind the scenes?
There's so many. I think a lot of people demand new releases. Mm-hmm. That's probably one of the newest. How could you not get that? It's like, well, we ordered 10 and we only got 2 and they sold out in an hour and there's almost nothing. It's completely out of your control, especially for record store day stuff. I mean, a store that wanted like the Rolling Stones Let It Bleed or something like that. Everyone online, the first 10 people online, they all showed up for that Rolling Stones, but every store got one. And if you were the lucky one, but people get very, very angry and there's almost nothing that record stores can do. You get what you get.
Is there a way that you can see a gap, much like your own collection? Is there a way that you see a gap at a store and you are like, hey, you should have this?
Oh, I probably shouldn't shop in as many stores as I do because I see it all the time. I'll go into my local stores and be like, oh, we just got this back into stock. Why don't you have that? Like, you should have that. You should have every Misfits reissue. I don't see any originals on the wall. Things
and
like that.
You can box those up and you can send them all to me because that's what I need in my life. Thank you.
I mean, it just depends. I mean, you'll see it everywhere. There are stores that they're missing very, very. There are things you should always have in stock.
Right.
How do you think that stores are responding to the various record store days? Do you think that that's been helpful for them? I know it's typically a pretty good moneymaker, right, for record stores?
I think the fact that they split the days again this year it's a good thing. I'm not supposed to know how many titles are on that list, or you aren't. I don't know. I do know how many, but I can't say how many. I think with the amount of titles they're putting out this year, you had to split it. You can't just put out that many in one day.
Record store is June 12th and July 14th. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, they split it. It was initially supposed to be.
Do you think that they're too close together?
Not at all. No, I think if it's fresh in people's minds, they'll get online again in a month. If you're not like me and you don't want 15 different things off the list, there's not too much damage to your wallet. If you're going for one or two things, it's not too bad.
Yeah, and we're all, I think, I know, anti-flippers in this group. So, maybe talk about that. Is there any blowback ever to stores or distros or labels that you hear about because maybe people are doing that or they were so limited or...
Record store day is actually extremely strict. You have to be open for a certain amount of time just to become a pledge store for record store day. So if they catch you gouging any prices, they just will not let you participate ever again, which I honestly agree with. It doesn't really make much sense to buy up something and then flip it for $75.
Yeah.
If it's $30, make it $30. Everybody wants it.
Right.
We're collectors, but we're fans.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't take advantage of fans.
Right.
What would you like people to know about working at a record store? Like, everybody that's probably listening to this podcast has seen High Fidelity. I mean, I am John Cusack in another life for sure. But have you encountered the stereotype? Is there something that other than like be kind all of the time, is there something that...
Oh man, I could keep you here forever.
Please do.
With just what it's like being a girl in a record store.
Yes, please. Please talk about that.
I mean, people will go out of their way to find like a manager. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, is the guy coming back? And it's like, hey, I'm the manager. Or, I'm looking for a new release. Can someone order it for me? And they'll go up to the register, and it's this big, strong man. And they ask him, and they're like, no, you got to ask her. I have no idea. And it almost scares the crap out of people. And which is why I live my life in pajamas, because if you wear a dress in the record store, no one wants to talk to you. But I think, I don't know, I could keep you here all day, really. There's too many things about working.
Did you find that out early?
Oh yeah, I found that out early, which is why I was never very girly. But I think the best thing to know about wanting to work in a record store, it looks very cool and relaxed, and you can just kind of chill out and talk about music all day, and it is, but it's also a really high stress environment.
Yeah.
And you have to do a lot of things you have to be a multitasker is what I'm saying. And a lot of it's not very glamorous. And I spend my time making a lot more spreadsheets than I did, than you'd think, and alphabetizing things and cleaning things. And it's a very active job. I mean, I'm picking up boxes with 80 records in it.
Yeah.
If you're into lifting U-Haul boxes, sure, work at a record store.
What sort of things do you think that your dad sort of taught you to prepare? Because, with the record show, that's sort of where you first started, right?
I was working in the store really young, illegally, for sure. Just ringing people up, and all of the receipts. We were super old school. We didn't even get cordless phones until like late 2000s. He would just be walking with this long cord across the store. seeing if something was in stock for a customer. But he made it very possible to just know, listen, you can handwrite receipts, you can ring up stuff on the register. It doesn't matter that you're a girl. Get behind the table, lift this box, lift these tables, talk to these dudes, and I'm sure you'll have a great time. And it's true. I really love it.
Was there ever any time that he had to come back you up?
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And my mom is, they call her, I don't need a man, Joanne. And she did.
We need a t-shirt with
She
that
did
on.
like all the housework. I mean, if there was like a doorknob that needed to be, fixed, or if anything, if there was the shower head you didn't go to my dad, you went to my mom, and she was just a badass who rode motorcycles with Dee Snider for March of Dimes every year. And
oh man,
so I was
that's
always
crazy.
taught from a little kid that like it didn't matter if you were a girl, like just be a badass.
that you weren't going to take it.
Yeah.
I love that.
So because you've done like almost every single job on the sales side, if you could jump into like tech side or like the opposite side of the biz, what branch would you be interested in going into?
I mean, I would love, oh my God, I would love to work at a pressing plant. You guys are heroes. Like the fact that you're making what I'm selling. You guys are the ones that I should be interviewing you. But I don't really know. I think I really want to be a sponge and just learn whatever you're willing to teach me, which is why I do website stuff and I do retail stuff and I do record show stuff, and I'll learn whatever you're willing to teach me. I just love records.
Yeah. I think that's so important for anybody that wants to get into the industry, is just pick someone or something and learn it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like it's there, all everywhere. You just pick something and you learn it. Someone just taught me.
Right.
And I enjoyed it.
Yeah. On the heels of that, have you done something that you were absolutely like, nope, done that, checked it off the list, never going back again?
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of things, but I want to say that the first thing that really scared me was being a buyer at Generation. I don't listen to new music at all. I listen to 70s rock and like 80s metal. And there's just, there was nothing for me in new music. So when I started ordering all the new releases, I found out who Mac Miller was the day he died. It's just not my thing. Mm-hmm. So when I started dealing, I need this Travis Scott, and I had to learn a whole new world. And that was really scary for me. And I kind of thought like, well, maybe I don't want to be a buyer for a huge store in Manhattan, as big as, as exciting as that is. But I think, no, if I buckle down and just start doing something, I'll learn to love it.
How are you researching and sort of exploring for that kind of thing? Because I know, working as a sales rep, we get audio sent to us all the time for the new release or whatever. And there's just no possible way that I could listen to it all. So I'm curious, when you're sort of expanding and exploring, do you typically just Google it? Do you listen to it? How are you sort of discovering?
I think my saving grace is people. It's all of you people. It's customers. I'll talk to every single person I can about a new release. If someone's asking me about, I need, the new Deftones 45th anniversary, I ask them what's special about it, because I don't know, and I'm not a Deftones fan. Mm-hmm. And they'll start oozing about it. It has this, and it includes this, and it includes this. And now I know, and I don't have to research it at all. He just told me everything.
That's awesome.
So it's fans, it's customers, it's record store nerds, man. They keep me alive.
Has somebody told you something that hooked your interest so much that you're like, oh, now I'm going to go listen to that?
With new stuff, honestly, it's my boyfriend.
Yeah?
He listens to a lot of new stuff that I just don't know anything about, and he'll special order it and say, I need this Black Country New Road record. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'll order it, and it's pretty cool. So he'll get me into stuff, or the new Mogwai, stuff like that.
Sure.
It's a great
What
record.
What is the last record that you bought for yourself?
New release, like not a reissue of an old record.
Not a reissue.
Jeez. Lizzo, 'Cause I Love You, maybe.
It's a good one.
Record
I have
rocks.
to say, people wouldn't think I like it, but I'm into it.
I really like it, probably more than I should.
Mm-hmm.
People have walked into the record store to me sweeping to that record. It is a scene, man. It is
Maybe you could talk about why it's so important to buy from local record stores and how that sort of differs from people buying at big box stores or Amazon.
Man, I think it's extremely important to support your local record store. Amazon, I don't want to say anything terrible. I buy stuff on Amazon, but Amazon doesn't care about you. They just don't. They're just dealing with volume. And the reason that they can keep those prices low is because they buy in bulk. And I mean, I work for a distributor that they order from. So I know where they're ordering from, and I know where they get their product, and I know how they keep it low. But the fact that you can call your local record store and ask for the new reissue of Stone Temple Pilots, and that guy behind the counter is going to remember you and know the next time that they reissue a Stone Temple Pilots that he's going to call you and say, hey, do you want this? Amazon's not going to do that.
Right.
So it's a reason to just get to know your collectors in your area, and record stores will take care of you if you take care of them. And I can't say that about Target.
Right.
For moving across the country from Calgary to Toronto, I mean, my city was 1 million people, and there was like 7 record stores there, and I had a person at every record store, and you have your guy. I know this is a women in vinyl thing, but you got your guy. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I want to shout out Recordland, and I want to shout out Slash Records right now. I mean, those guys did incredible work, and would just be like, hey, yeah, we have that Motorhead 7-inch that you wanted. And I was like, oh, I haven't even been here for 3 weeks. Thanks, dudes.
Right.
And they'll hold it for you, and they'll remember.
And the discovery, I think, too, is really cool.
If you like this, you're going to love this. Trust me. Oh, we just got this.
Exactly. Yep.
Can't have enough of those interactions in record stores. And Amanda, with that kind of in mind, were you working at Slip Disc when the first record store day happened?
Ooh, good question. Because we closed that day. It was like 2008, April 2008. Yeah, we closed like the week of record store day, one of the first record store days ever.
Oh man.
What made
you
guys
could have held on?
Yeah.
What made him decide to go from a record store to doing record shows?
He was already doing really big, I don't know if you Kiss guys, like Kiss fans are nuts. So in New York, we would have big Kiss expos every year. And my dad would always do the Kiss expo. And then he just started finding about all these different record shows in the area. So when Slip Disc was open, he was still doing shows. And I think when he closed, he just kind of had enough time in his hands to get together with his friends and plan his own. And it just blew up. Yeah. And he just started doing everybody's shows.
So when did you make the return into like working at record stores after Slip Disc closed?
Man, it was a while.
Yeah.
I was doing record shows with him, but just working the table. And I did random retail odd jobs. I worked at a sunglass hut. I worked at a Pet Supplies Plus. I worked at a million different places. It was always customer service because that's all I'm good at.
Disagree.
But I think maybe 5 years later, I started just working all of the Vinyl Revolution shows with him. And then around 2017, so it was almost 10 years later, Generation offered me a job.
Oh, wow. And then what was your first record store day like?
Oh, man, I was a buyer at that point.
Ooh.
And it was, oh, man, I cried. I cried myself to sleep at night. There were so many things to do. There were too many things to order and price and process and remember that list just to remember. And then there's people geeking out outside. Do you have this? And how many of them do you have? And you got to remember how many you scanned into the system when and I'm like, I don't know, 3? I'm not sure. Yeah. And you're in Manhattan. So there's a million famous people who were just walking up like, hey, looking for that new Harry Nilsson. And it's just like,
get in line.
I love you, man. I'm like, but I'm on 4 hours of sleep. So it was insane.
Back of the line, Elton John. I don't care.
Yeah, it was wild.
It's just very overwhelming.
Yeah, I think like 2008 or 2009, I was living in New York and we went to a record store day there. And I mean, it was like a fight once you got in the store. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
It's like that at all the stores here. It's not even limited to one. It's every store you go to.
Yeah. Because we have cultural differences between America. I mean, our interpretation of Black Friday is a lot different than your guys's.
Oh, yeah.
So can you tell me what it was like when the first like Black Friday thing started with Record Store Day? And did that like increase the mayhem? Was it regular mayhem or?
I'll be honest, I think with Record Store, I always want to say nerds because that's really what we are. Yeah. We're very aware of the line. And if you're shopping at a record store in your area, most likely you're going to know like the 10 to 20 people around you.
Right.
And you're going to know that guy wants the Morrissey, and you're going to know that guy wants this, and so you're kind of shopping and you're handing things to people. And you're finding things for yourself. And if anything, it just kind of made me impressed by the helpfulness within the community. Just everyone just kind of shopping for each other. And I love that.
That's been really cool, I think, with the online vinyl community too, on social media. It's like, I mean, there was a Black Sabbath release that came out in the UK only. It was that 2 picture disc 7-inch set, and someone went and bought it for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like people are willing to help you, and that's so cool. Just that community.
Yeah, I feel like I'm shipping stuff more often now. Like I went out and bought mailers. I was like, I'm just shipping all my records to people. And it's like, oh, you don't have that? I have 3. I was like, I gotta stop talking to people.
I mean, if anybody is listening to this from Field Day and they want to send a yellow card Ocean Avenue repress my way, all channels are open. Thank you very much.
So do other people in your family collect records? I know you have a sister, right?
Yes, my sister doesn't collect like I collect, but she is a comic book collector.
Oh.
And she's like a crazy movie nut. So she has like a gazillion DVDs, and she buys mostly scores and soundtracks.
Awesome.
Cool. So her collection is pretty cool. My mom gave up and gave all her records to me, but she's strange, man. You'll find her listening to like Kenny Rogers one second, and then she's got Cannibal Corpse on. And she's just like, it's so great. And then the next week she's like, oh, you remember ICP? I loved Insane Clown Posse. It's like, who are you?
Is she the one that also started the Melanie situation?
No, that was my best friend's mom. Just had like a Woodstock compilation CD that we'd play over and over again. And my best friend loved that song. And I started going to record shows. I'm like, you got any Melanie? I was just looking for it, and I figured maybe someone had come across it, and now I got 75 right behind me.
It's impressive.
They're all $2 and no one cares. Like if I was looking for Sabbath, I think I'd have a harder time.
Yeah. A little bit.
So Amanda, just kind of going back to the record store and the record fair, because you can speak to both of them. Can you talk about how the pandemic has affected Record Store Day? We saw the 3 drops last year. We know what the plans are kind of for this year. I think you guys just had a little bit of a record fair, but what does that look like going into 2021 and ahead?
And to piggyback on that, are you noticing any issues in getting records to distribution?
There are some delays in distribution, just getting in new releases and stuff like that. And I think it's just a scramble for certain things to be pressed right now. I think that's really what it is. It's just the lack of pressing plants. There just are not enough. But in terms of COVID and stores, I think when the lockdown first happened and all these stores went online, I think that they were surprised to see how supportive their communities were. Yeah. I wound up hiring the Needle and Groove manager solely because he was just buying stuff from us online every single day when we were closed. And he just be like, oh, you have this and you have this. And I would just be sitting listing stuff online, and he would send me a message 5 minutes later and buy something. I would just drop it off at his house because he's 15 minutes away. And we became such good friends in 3 months of him buying records every single day that I just hired him to become the manager. To replace me after I had gotten the job, but really just to help me out at the store. I think COVID helped record stores in a lot of ways. And now that they're back open and people are kind of still working from home and they're getting used to working from home, that they're buying more records than ever.
Yeah.
which is great.
Do you think the record stores are going to keep up their online presence, or do you think that that's going to slowly drop off a little bit?
It depends. For a lot of stores realized that they were doing so well online that they didn't need to reopen.
Yeah.
And they closed their storefronts, and now they're just doing only online, and they like it. A lot of stores enjoy that, customer experience where they get to talk to their customers every day. And they don't lean so much as online as they do with in-person sales. So a lot of people did drop off from listing on Discogs once they were back open again.
Yeah.
And did you guys just have a record fair or a swap, or what?
In New York?
Yeah.
There are none. They're starting up in May, and they probably will have a little more throughout the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, it was just New Jersey had lifted some of the restrictions. So now there's a show every month in Wayne, New Jersey that restarted. So now we've been doing that every month, and it's been good. There's temperature checks at the door, and they're all, very conscious of how you're standing. Everyone's got a mask on. So it's been a little weird, but it's nice for them to just be back.
I think they're trying to do the first one with the record guys here in Toronto in November, potentially. Well, fingers crossed that it happens.
It's really not a bad drive for me. I should just come.
No, please do. I have space. I'll check your temperature.
Yeah, check my temperature. I'm good for it.
Yeah.
So what sort of skills or advice or both would you tell people wanting to do what you're doing? Really both jobs.
I think it's just attention to detail. That's really all you need. Everything else you can learn. I learned over time. If they say, are you good at Excel? I lied, man. I was just like, I'm great at Excel. You know what? I've dealt with some Google Sheets. I can copy and paste. And, I did eventually. And now I'm making my own drop-down menus for fun and learning data validation and all these things that I can keep track of my annual sales. Like, I'll go knee deep in it. As long as you have attention to detail, you get to know, you can just start working at a store. That's all you need, and just work your way up. Start learning how to alphabetize. It's funny because I was watching the Other Music documentary, and I felt so proud of myself because I think one of the first things they said was, when we hire a new staff member, we have them go around and write down every section, every card that's in the store that has their own section, write it down and get to know the entire store. And that's the first thing I did at Generation is just get to know the store, get to know the customers, and it'll be very, very easy to fall in place. If they want to give you more work, you'll find it. It's not a problem. There's always more to do, and there's always more to learn. I think just being good, a little of the computer and just a little bit, if you know the basic alphabet, you could work at a record store, man. It's fine.
We have a question. It's going to be the very first time that we get to ask the question of the Women in Vinyl podcast. Your dream split 7-inch. Who's on the A side? Who's on the B side? What songs are on it?
It can be anybody.
Oh no. This is like, this is just so much pressure. I'm going to go ahead and say, and it's going to be funny, and I might take it back, but side A should just be, and it's his birthday right now. Nat King Cole, Nature Boy. What's going on side? That's all. It's got to be a Lizzie song, right? It's got to be Thin Lizzy on the other side. Nah, you know what? Let's shake it up. Rock and Roll Damnation by AC/DC on the other side. Let's just throw him for a loop.
That's perfect.
I love it.
Thanks so much, Amanda, for your time. We know how busy you are. We really appreciate you joining us.
Well, that was wonderful for me. I'm going to visit Jenn. I'm just going to show up at her record store, maybe like 20 minutes from your house, and just be like, hey, I'm here. Come hang out. And I'll do it to you too, Robyn. It's going to happen.
Well, Amanda, we just want to say thanks again so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you and see you.
Well, thank you. You guys are my heroes, man.
Right back at you.
Everybody remember to follow J Records and Needle and Groove Records on all socials. We Are Smelly is Amanda's Instagram, and it's a marvel. Day to day brings me so much joy. Check out www.womeninvinyl.com for everything. Get in touch, send us questions, And Amanda, do you have anything that you want to plug here?
Support your local record store and support your local record ladies. We're here.
Big thank you to Haley and the Crushers from San Luis Obispo for giving us Church of Flag for our podcast episode. Thank you again, Haley. Church of Flag.
Thank you to Arc of All for our intro and outro music.
Take it away, Rollins.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl, Red Spade Records, and produced by Black Circle Studios. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.